I'm going to start this off as my first official YouTube apology video. Yes, I'm sorry guys. I'm really bad at doing part 3s. I just get to another concept, something comes up in my head, I watch something, and I fixate on it. I don't know what it is, it's just how I am. But I fixated on something that made this a perfect time to come back and finally do a part 3 to this series because I found something special. It's definitely a contender for this list, and it's got a really fun story to it. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, welcome back to another disturbing horror movies list. Yeah, I know, again, I said it in the intro, really bad about part 3s, but we're doing it. Yes, this is a part 3. I don't specify it in the thumbnail or in the actual, title of the video. I only do that because at this point going forward, I don't necessarily want all of these disturbing lists to be kind of broken up in just kind of segmented. I'm going to kind of put these into a disturbing lists playlist on the channel, and we're just going to kind of roll with that. I think that that's just going to make more sense, and hopefully I can kind of Avengers Endgame this thing and we do some kind of like iceberg of our own later on down the road. With all that out of the way though, I just want to say thank you again for stopping by. If you're new here, please hit that like button to help boost us up in the algorithm. It really helps with the content stuff that YouTube likes to throw at me, but it is the stuff you guys like. It's the stuff I enjoy talking about, so we got to keep it moving. Otherwise, you could hit that subscribe button, be a big help, get us to 40,000 subs. But just because YouTube is a little dicey about this doesn't mean that everybody is, because we have a wonderful sponsor, and I'm going to shoot it over to them, and then we'll get right into the list right now. Hey, what's going on guys? Dylan here. Just wanted to let you know that we have a very special sponsor on the channel now. Yes, the good folks over at AKR Projectors have partnered with us to talk about some of their upcoming and current products. More specifically, what I have for you guys today is the portable mini projector. Yes, this thing, I gotta admit, I was a little skeptical when they first sent it over. I was a little bit like, been seeing these all over TikTok, been seeing them all over YouTube, but I gotta say, after hooking this thing up and actually playing with it for a couple of weeks, I don't know what I would do without it. We're always just chasing and trying to get that theatrical experience at home. Well, I'm here to tell you the best way that you can do that is by getting into the projector game. And for those of you who've never owned a projector, who are just trying to get your feet wet, I gotta say, this thing is the best place to start. Not only is it super portable, super sleek, but it also is very easy to set up. I had this thing ready to go with apps downloaded in about 5 minutes, and that's my all-time favorite piece to this, guys, is the fact that this thing has its own operating system in it. So yes, you can access the Google Play Store and get all of your favorite streaming apps. We got Shudder, we got Screambox, we got everything under the sun at our disposal for this projector. And don't worry, if you're a quality nut like myself, this baby does come with the hookups and the ability to project in 4K using any of your favorite devices, everything from your favorite game console to your most prestigious Blu-ray 4K players. So yeah, this thing, you kind of can't lose with it. I really found myself going head over heels in love with it, and I really think if you're looking to spice up your movie watching experience at home, this bad boy is a great place to start. Definitely use our affiliate link down below. Check out AKR Projectors TikTok shop. They've got a lot of great products on there as well, multiple different projectors, but if you're just looking to get in on the ground floor, this is definitely the best one to start with, and our link will go directly to it. You'll get it in just a few days, and I promise you, you will not regret it. This thing is super fun. It makes my life super easy, and yeah, honestly, just having a projection of the films you're wanting to watch and what we're talking about up on my ceiling, my wall, or even the projector screen my wife and I just invested in, it's changing the game for us here. So definitely thank you again to AKR, and we hope that you guys will take a look at this and pick one up for yourself. And getting us started at my number 5 pick, we have 2015's Son of Saul. A Jewish Hungarian concentration camp prisoner sets out to give a child he mistook for his son a proper burial. I remember seeking this film out due to YMS on YouTube here. I watched one of his early TIFF videos for this, and I was just so like, wow, that sounds awesome. He was praising it. I really liked, and still do, his opinion on films. So it meant a lot to me to go out and find this, and I did. Stopped into a family video one day, and there was the DVD. Took it, watched it. Boy, oh, this is a tough watch. I mean, just that description alone really sets the table for the kind of intensity and just the material we're dealing with. You know, when it comes to concentration camps, when it comes to the Holocaust, it's usually going to be some pretty awful subject matter, and this film doesn't really shy away from that. I mean, this is a tragedy. You really get to live in the shoes of our main character, Saul here, who has the unfortunate job of disposing of, fellow prisoners. So not only does he have to live and eat and just, I guess exist with them for this time, he has to then discard them once they have been eliminated. And yeah, that's some rough stuff. And then you go ahead and throw in a dead child and have that be the focus of the film, where he's now trying to just find somebody to give him a proper Jewish burial. It really makes for some intense and gruesome scenes. This one is purely just pulling on the heartstrings, really showing you a brutal, very interesting depiction of this kind of an event from a perspective that we don't ever really see being told on film. And it's a very well acted, very well made movie. There's a lot of shallow focus in this, which I think just absolutely works for the style, because there's a lot of great stuff they hide in that shallow focus. There's a lot of stuff when we're just looking at Saul or whatever he's kind of working on at the moment, and there is violence, there are tragedies, atrocities, all happening on the outer edges of the screen. And it's really artful, really tasteful stuff. I think this movie is certainly one of those that it's up there with me as far as like Schindler's List, come and see, of just like, if you want to really dive in and see accurate, very tasteful depictions of this stuff and experience what is going on with the Nazis in World War II and just kind of what the era was like, being someone who's not from there, this is another one that just feels like a really accurate, really tasteful representation. Overall, I mean, there's not a whole lot that I can say other than this is a tough watch. I don't think, again, that this has any like negative flaws to it. It's just something that I'm not going to sit there and really find an interest of, I need to watch this. I need to sit down and put myself through this. And I think that's the intent. This is not a movie that you're just supposed to throw on like an Avengers movie or something. This is something to make us reflect, humanize some things that are very distant in our history that I think everybody could use a reminder every once in a while. And coming in at the number 4 spot, we have 2011's We Need to Talk About Kevin. Kevin's mother struggles to love her strange child, despite the increasingly dangerous things he says and does as he grows up. But Kevin is just getting started, and his final act will be beyond your worst imaginations. For you seasoned, disturbing horror film connoisseurs, We Need to Talk About Kevin is certainly not a surprising pick for one of my lists. And this one is definitely perfect here because, We Need to Talk About Kevin is a very, very interesting, strange tale. And it's made by a filmmaker I really admire. Her name is Lynn Ramsey. She also did a film with Joaquin Phoenix just a few years back that is absolutely one of the films I'm certainly going to keep recommending. It was on one of my lists back a few months ago, but it's called You Were Never Really Here. Love that movie. Certainly seek that one out if you like really rough crime thrillers. But We Need to Talk About Kevin is a different animal entirely. Yeah, this is a very, very intimate, very kind of tragic, again, deeply upsetting movie about a mother and her kind of odd psychopathic child. and you kind of get to watch Tilda Swinton here have to come to terms with that. The way this movie is edited, the way that it tells its story is we're kind of jumping back from present to past, and we just get to watch these two kind of, you know, opposing forces grow together, grow up together in a way. And it's really, really harrowing stuff, with just being at times extremely subtle about it, and then at times very much in your face. And I think that's kind of the brilliance of it. I think that's really why it gets under my skin so much, because it is a film that chooses to have just bombard you with all of this like quiet background stuff of just saying, you know, here's why their relationship isn't working. Here's what he's doing to kind of frame the mom or ruin her life a little bit. And then it'll just hit you with a scene.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Yeah, oh yeah, Ezra Miller's in this too. I think that's all I really got to say about that. They are very good in this movie, I have to say. But now, with the context of, you know, where we're at in the world when it comes to Ezra Miller, they are I don't know. I feel like this is more of a harrowing watch now than it was back then, because this is something that like seems so natural, and I think we know why now. But yeah, not to get into that whole situation. It does really work for the film. It really does bring it to something very sick and disturbing as time goes on. Like just the looks, the demeanor, the conversations that these two have together. You really sit here and just wonder, like, if I was in this situation, what the hell would I do? Because, yeah, I'm a parent. I love my son. You know, yes, does he do things sometimes that bug me? He's 3, of course. But I would never in a million years do anything to hurt him. But, like, could you imagine having a child that's just, like, you know, ruining your life like this, who's actively trying to hurt you, kill you, embarrass you? It's interesting. It's very psychological. It gets under your skin in all of the worst ways. And it all culminates in a sequence in which Ezra Miller, their character, goes on a rampage at school and a ton of their classmates. And it's pretty harrowing stuff, because the way they show it is you see him gearing up, you see all this stuff happening, and then we're cutting between that and the aftermath. Again, the editing of this movie does a lot of work. I really think it was edited beautifully. And yeah, it's just a very slow reveal, letting you sit in that trauma and that terror of where you are. And I think the thing that kind of really, you know, is the capper of this movie for me is, of course, the very last scene. It is a little bit of a spoilery part of it, so I won't go too deep into it. But to give you kind of an idea, it just really puts it in place, in perspective of, this is your child. What are you going to do? How do you live your life like this? How do you move forward knowing what they've done, having them do this? Do you love them? Do you support them? Or do you leave them behind? And I think it's very effective. This is a movie, yes, that I've seen it I think twice, and I don't think I need to watch it again. I don't think it's one that I ever really need to experience that kind of pain, especially because my most recent viewing was a few months back, and I did it, and I think, like, being a parent, having to think about these things, having all this imagery thrown at me, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It's a brilliant film. I highly recommend, if you want something disturbing and psychological, to check this one out. But I will not be surprised if you end up in my boat and saying, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be checking this one out anytime soon. Moving on into my number 3 pick with 1994's Fresh. Death and violence anger a 12-year-old drug courier who sets his employers against each other. This is a movie, man. I saw this, I think, on like an HBO free weekend, years ago when I was probably like 6 or 7, and it just was a movie that I remember, I think, just getting interested because the main character is a little kid. He's doing some pretty like rough stuff, and it just really caught my attention. And I watched it, consumed it, and then just, I don't know, my brain put it in like some kind of a shredder because there was only one scene I could remember from this movie, and we'll talk about that scene for sure, but I just lost it. So I want to thank the man, the myth, the legend of Prim's Hood Cinema here on YouTube. Go check out his channel. He's awesome. He covered Fresh, I think just a few months ago or so. I found his video just a couple weeks back, and man, oh man, it just like it unlocked a door that had been closed forever in my brain. Because yeah, this was a movie that I had seen. So revisiting this, I was very interested to see how a couple of these key moments that stuck there hold up today. And well, since we're watching this list, you know, yeah, this is a very, very disturbing kind of serious film. You've got scenes where, you know, crackheads are coming up to him and they're offering to sleep with him, and he's like a 12-year-old kid. This is a full adult woman here who's talking to him, and it's really uncomfortable. And it leads to things like him and his best friend Chucky taking Chucky's dog and putting her onto a dog fight. That's a really gross, harrowing scene. I was not big on that, you know, but that's subject matter we tackle. Unfortunately, our pal Chucky does get gunned down in a pretty awful sequence. Mind you, again, these are children. These are 12 and 11-year-olds. The scene that, you know, just really takes the cake for me, the one that makes this a standout, is what happens to the dog after Chucky is dead. Yes, as I said, that was Chucky's dog, but Fresh, I have had it explained to me through Prim's video, through some stuff I read online about the movie, that I guess the intent of this sequence is for him to basically get the goal, the cojones in a sense, to actually shoot potentially another human being. So he takes Chucky's dog, he takes his leash and he throws it around a pipe, and he pulls him up, literally just hanging him, lynching him. And then he takes out this gun that he acquired earlier, and he takes a couple of practice shots on the dog. You see it all. It's all right in front of you. It's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. It's so whack. I was like, what the f*** are we watching? Oh my god.
Emotional, damn it!
Man, Fresh is great. This is definitely a movie that, again, I recommend to people. Is this one that I'm going to watch all that often, though? Not really. No, that sequence is extremely in your face, as well as that, and, you know, the one other scene that's kind of hard to watch is that they're playing basketball, and this one kid gets upset at this other smaller kid for beating him, and he just starts shooting. He ends up killing, I believe it's 2 kids, but the one that you see, it's pretty gross. It's pretty upsetting, and yeah, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. So, Fresh, go in knowing that it's a bit intense, but again, I think a very unique and very interesting movie nonetheless. And taking us into the number 2 spot, we have 1997's Gummo. Lonely residents of a tornado-stricken Ohio town wander the deserted landscape, trying to fulfill their boring, nihilistic lives. When I talked about kids on the first list, a lot of you talked about Gummo, and yes, I've seen it. This is a movie that I absolutely came across because, I mean, I don't know, I think it was around the time Spring Breakers was coming out, and all of the film people I watched or interacted with were like, oh, Harmony Korine this, Harmony Korine that. So yeah, I started kind of looking for his stuff. Kids, of course, was in that conversation, as well as Gummo. And boy, this is a movie I will never forget because of just the kind of the context in which I watched it in too. It was just like a random summer afternoon. I'm in my bedroom and I got the windows open. It's nice. Everything was feeling great. And I'm like, yeah, let's watch something different. Let's watch something unique. And if you know anything about Harmony Korine, different, unique, disturbing, frightening, awful. Those are all words you can use to describe his work, and boy, Gummo does it. Because, yeah, watching these two ride around on bikes, hunting cats, and having to watch them murder them, like, for, an hour and a half, that's a weird experience. It's got a lot of material in it that's going to make you uncomfortable. There's a lot of stuff involving these kids going around doing all kinds of horrid, illicit activity. You have things like them going to, I believe, if I remember correctly, because, again, this is one I didn't want to revisit. I only read up on it again to refresh myself. I believe it was the brother of one of these characters that they're going to visit, and he decides that his mentally challenged sister is going to basically be a that he rents out to them, and it's a pretty gross scene. I mean, like, you don't necessarily see them doing anything. It's the between the youngest boy and her, but it's like the context, the situation, everything just makes you wildly uncomfortable, and that's all this movie at the end of the day is aiming to do, is make you uncomfortable. It's showing you something that almost feels like an alien world when you're watching it. Like, there's these people who are just, I guess, living in Ohio. I live here. I don't know where they found these people, but they are very strange, and it's a whole town of them, and they're just going around, again, killing cats, interacting with more weirdos, and doing all kinds of awful, messed up stuff. This is a movie that is, I think, not one I'd say is important viewing like kids, but this is one that it's like, hey, if you are into something experimental and you are into something that's going to at least leave a mark enough for you to, talk about it, recommend it to people who like weird, oddball stuff, Gummo might be one that's worth checking out for you. And yeah, I found myself just very perplexed and odded out by this movie. So it's definitely one that was going to make it on one of these lists eventually. This just felt like the most appropriate time. And yeah, Gummo, that's one for the books. Definitely one I won't be revisiting anytime soon. But again, I respect Harmony Korine. I think that what they do is weird and strange, and this is certainly one of the biggest feathers in that cap. And I do, on one hand, understand people who really dig this. It is something unique. It is something that, you're not going to get from just a studio picture anytime soon. And taking the number one spot, yes, a film that is a fresh watch for me, that I have to put on this list. It probably would have been higher on the first list had I had seen it. We're talking 2004's Mysterious Skin. Two pre-adolescent boys both experienced a strange event, and later it affects their lives in different ways. One becomes a recklessly sexually adventurous prostitute, while the other retreats into a reclusive fantasy of alien abduction. Yes, like I said, this was one that was recommended by you guys. I had not seen Mysterious Skin, and I checked it out for an eventual Disturbing Movies list, and I gotta say, wow, that'll do it. That's a tough pill to swallow right there, Captain. It's easily up there with like Happiness and Michael as far as movies that are just grueling to get through, and I gotta say, this one really shows some range with just how it's able to get away with showing as much as it does. We never see, obviously we're talking about PDF files on this one, and what happens after an event like that takes place, and where do you go? And it's so intimate, it's so like conniving and mean-spirited in the sense of just like you are watching this man coax these children and just basically just trick them into, we all know what's coming. And it's a really tough watch for that. It makes it a very, very hard watch. But then seeing these grown-up boys played brilliantly by one, of course, by someone I adore, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. A completely very different role than anything I think I've ever seen him in at this, and it's so young in his career, it's crazy. But Brady Corbett is another one who I don't know him from much, but he crushed it in this. The two have this kind of bond that they don't act on for most of the movie because, you know, obviously we know what happened, but they need to figure it out. And it's really, really endearing, and it's really, really heartfelt. And it's just tragic. It's just awful to think that this is stuff that is very much able to happen in our real world. This is not something that, you know, is made up. There are people who go out and children, and then they just toss them off to go deal with that trauma and all of that in their lives, and they gotta just fight through it. And it's awful. The depictions in this, again, are so vivid. They're so in your face, and you're just trying to get past it and try to, you know, watch it because you want to know what's going on in the story and how it wraps up, especially because you are hoping that there's some revenge at the end of it. And unfortunately, I will tell you, not really. It's kind of more about how these people move on and accept that they went through this stuff. They were victims of a tragic, awful occurrence. And I think that just makes it 10 times harder. The message hits so much harder, so much deeper. And yeah, I mean, again, this is another movie on this list, like most of these, that I think is excellent. I think it's really well done. Again, like seeing Joseph Gordon-Levitt as this, you know, prostitute, and he's barely even out of high school. He's not even out of high school when we start the movie. And he's, you know, just giving himself away to all these different men. And it's just, it's so grueling. It's so gross and intense. I mean, I think that this is certainly something, again, I like kids is very important. I think that people should watch this to get an idea for, you know, just what this world has in store for us as we're kind of growing up. But again, it makes somebody like me, a parent, I mean, just think about, how am I ever going to trust just letting my son go out into the world and even join something as simple as getting on a baseball team? How can I trust people? And I guess the sad fact and the reality is you just can't. And every time you do, you're taking a risk. And Mysterious Skin will definitely live on with me. This movie certainly did its job, so thank you for recommending it. Definitely earned its spot here. It's the freshest wound that I've inflicted on myself, as opposed to those other awful videos. But yeah, this definitely earned its keep. So Mysterious Skin is no joke, folks. That's a movie that will get you. Well, there you go. That is part 3 to the Never Watch Again series. Again, I love doing this. This is a series that I definitely feel confident in. I feel good about my choices because, unlike the series where it's 5 films that are more disturbing than like a Serbian film or Salo, these are movies that I can again say they are tough watches. Everything on here is something that, for the most part, I'm never going to seek out again. I'm never going to sit there and say, man, I need to watch that. I'm not going to get a hankering for it. But I'd say most of them are still very well produced, very artful, very tasteful, some of them, movies that I think, again, they do what they set out to do, and that is to get under your skin and disturb you. So the definition of disturbing, I say it every time. I have to make sure it gets out there so that way, hopefully, it'll put the negative commenters at bay. This is a very opinionated topic. This is a very opinionated series. So just because you think that these are soft or not disturbing at all doesn't mean that myself and maybe, hopefully, another 100,000 of you will agree with. So that's the fun of it. That's why I like this, and I'm happy to do it again. So yeah, hopefully we don't have to wait as long for a follow-up to this next one. I do have a tentative list put together. I do want to watch more movies because, again, something like Fresh just completely motivated and took over this. Mysterious Skin, something you guys recommended, popped up on this. So yeah, I'm certainly excited to continue this and as well bring you many, many other series as well as we keep going down the disturbing films rabbit hole. Again, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more the Serbian film, Salo speed, I got videos for that. I'm going to link them at the end of this here. But if you're looking for stuff that's more like this, we still got it. So let's keep going. Let's keep talking about gross, disgusting movies. And again, thank you for stopping by. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button to boost us up in the algorithm. We're trying to get to 40,000 subscribers. We're almost there. I can taste it. And yeah, thank you again to AKR Projectors for producing. Thank you again to AKR Projectors for sponsoring this video. Definitely helps out, definitely makes it all worth it. And yeah, that's everything I got, guys. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell, and remember, stay scared.
Do the hard shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna slash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna slash your ass.